it helps you to able to confront the issues that confront you with life, the issues that of hardship in life, because they are challenges that help you to progress in love and understanding. Everything that happens to you in life is a challenge for you to progress. From the Baha'i perspective, we are told that the purpose of God in creating man has been and will ever will be to enable him to know his creator, to love his creator. But as it goes on further, how do we get to know our creator? It's loving our fellow man. And so to progress the well-being of life is that journey to know the creator through loving others.
Good morning, everyone. Firstly, I would like to express deep gratitude to both of our study group and all the volunteers, and including all the other faith communities and all these distinguished speakers here, and all the participants for your time. I felt that more than ever, it carries immense meaning. The different faith, different people from different walks of life coming together. It really illustrate the importance of unity, harmony, peace, and being together, sharing goodness each other. Well, at the moment in our world, there are some quite many different conflicts happening. So I think now coming together is a really good message. And I travel around the world, and it's not so easy for different faiths to come together. One thing is most beautiful in Wagga Wagga is for the past 5-6 years that we've been coming together, and everybody is like really like one family. So I really appreciate. Thank you so much. Now, as for the brief answer for the question, from this perspective, in Buddhist teaching, emphasize that all experiences, all existence are very much expressions of our mind. So the suffering comes from our mind, happiness comes from our mind, good and bad. Samsara, which is a visible realm, or the liberation, which is free from the voltage of this power and karma and illusion, is very much qualities of our own mind. The solutions in our own mind. So, first thing is to study our own mind, study our emotion, and also try to learn from the reactions that comes out of those senses and those emotions that arises. So basically, you conclude by saying transform our mind or change our mind from negative ideas, negative thinkings to positive ideas, positive thinkings. So very much start with imputing life stories, telling good stories, beneficial stories, firstly in our head, and that kind of structure, the manners of our body, speech, and mind. I think very much whatever limitations that we experience in our life, I think very much start from thoughts. And especially in today's time. There are so many misleading stories and harmful narratives from social media, from news, and from conversations. So I think if we want to make a better, world to be a better place to be, and if we want to enjoy peace and happiness, I think we need to talk about positive things, like talk about the importance of compassion, the importance of love, the importance of harmony, the importance of respect, and the importance of understanding the beautiful, unique characteristics of all the individual differences. Those differences, different way of living, different thinking, different culture, different religion, is all so beautiful, and it brings benefits to another way to themselves, their community. And so simply learning to respect each other. So very much about working on our minds. So that's I think the main thing from this thing. Thank you.
I want to echo the words of gratitude for those people who actually involved in creating that, and I think it's but also to you to take your time to do that. It's always about that community that we have in the lives, and it's when it comes to Christianity and supporting mental health, there's sort of four aspects that I think of. There's so many things that to try and summarize the four aspects that I focus on. The first is this concept that we are an integrated person. So we don't separate, we're going to talk about separation of the body, a separate to the soul. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with this concept. And the whole idea of soul and body being separated in itself is a tragedy, which we experience to death. But with Christianity, we have an expectation that in the afterlife, that will also be regulated. So when we talk about mental health, we really can't divorce the psychological from the spiritual and from the biological, which in the mainstream mental health space happens. We tend to have a separation or at least a division where we have the biological and the sociological and psychological, we go step into the spiritual. I think that's what Christianity is probably, and actually stepping to Christian counseling and therapy specifically, and stepping and say, well, what about the spiritual aspects? That's what we can't ignore. So that would be the first thing. The second is that Christianity also holds the dignity of a human person. And it's something that is inherent. So it's not something that can be lost. So when we think about mental health, although the function of a person can be decreased or can be made more difficult to see that, it doesn't mean that the value or the worth of that person is decreased or changed in any way. So I think that's a really important concept that we bring, the principle that we bring to Christianity. And then the third aspect would be meaning and purpose, which we echoed already. I think there is value in asking really deep questions around who are we, why was I made, if I was made, why was I made, who was I made by, what is good, what is evil, what is my purpose? And we know that purpose has a very strong connection to positive mental health. We know that there is meaning to our life, and we put our life to some sort of purpose. We find a lot of stuff happening. So I think that brings a lot of this, and specifically for Christianity, it's about relationship with Jesus Christ itself. So it's not so much about rules and rituals as much as it really is about how do we maintain this relationship that is guiding to us. And also through that relationship to discover what is supposed to do for this world. Not only like the force, but as an invitation. What am I being invited to do this world? I join that, so that's the way we talk about callings and vocations as well. And then the final aspect for me is to be encouraging. I think Christianity has something really beautiful to offer in its rich tradition of the virtues. And the virtues for me is really just excellence of love, and that being shared with others. It's never in isolation, it's never for our own sake, it's always in sharing with anyone. And so I think excellence of virtue also helps us to build that muscle of resilience that we talk about in mental health as well. So those would be the four aspects. If I wanted to summarize Christianity, those would be the four aspects that I think are principles that support it.
Namaste everyone and good morning. And thank you to organizer to give me opportunity to bring us all of them here to talk about our own religious perspective. In this show, we already know we coming from the defined religious background, and we also have a qualified psychologist here, and we have a medical person in here. So the evidence that mental health is a social buzzword, the social worker and mental health people working hard. I like to start my talk like a kind of giving one story, and I didn't think about this one until this morning. This morning when I was doing my just normal things, I got a phone call from my brother. We lost our uncle a few months before, and he saw a dream last night about the uncle. Uncle wants something. I hope he is listening to me somewhere in the USA. And he was married. He asked me his wife after growing up what it mean. And his wife was a nurse, and he called back to my mom back home and asked mom, what should I do? And mom gave him some solutions, some sorts of solution to go and do this ritual things, or the religious things. Fortunately or unfortunately, I only understood. He asked me, you know, what happened last night? So, okay, go ahead. I'm in a hurry, but go ahead. He told me this. And that's clicked. Because, as I said, look, the things is all about how you see the things, how you interpret the things. In Hinduism, we strongly believe that the mind and me is two separate things. I am not my mind, and I never will say my mind. It's my mind. I'm not the mind. And I told him that some sorts of that subconscious minds, you're thinking about this, so that's what becomes true as a dream. And our society is set up kind of that, okay, we looking for explanation for everything. We never think whether I really know about my mind or not and how the mind works. Hinduism actually teaches a lot to know how the mind works. And Hinduism strongly believes if you know how the mind works, all suffering will be well. Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, he said, if you try to see everything is equal, is your gain or your pain and your achievement or your failure, it's something really, if say for example, my husband is some things, I might be reacting one way and you all might be reacting different way. It's the same one, but we are reacting different. But if we all think that this is the same, then there is really no suffering. And also in Hinduism, we notice that how is your life, what is your doing, how you are reacting. And now if I go to the psychoscience or modern science language, they are saying instead of the reacting respond, and people are so automated, they are reacting, they are not responding. And that's what we learn from the Hinduism videos every day. Do not react, respond, try to learn how the mind works, because the mind is a completely different thing than you. You are a soul, mind is a completely different thing. Once you have that self-knowledge, that suffering will be disappeared. You will bring happiness in life. I want to ask before I pass the mic to someone else, because we are going to talk a lot today. Think for the next couple of minutes. What do you want in your life? if I define a couple of things, and when I'll come back, I'll say what the Hinduism say, and I think we can go a little bit from there and how can we bring balance in our life. Thank you.
I will start with a quote from Quran, which is "Ala bi zikrillahi tatma'innul qulub." Indeed, in the remembrance of God the Almighty, we find the tranquility of heart. When we talk about remembering God, it's not just mere words. And this is basically a statement, submission, or total submission to God. And that is why in Islam it is very important to quote. When we say La ilaha illallah, it's Arabic, and the translation is there is no God but Allah. That means it's a total submission on about everything, and everything we are experiencing is from God the Almighty. Now, we have to understand that we are not talking about God in person, in a personal form. God the Almighty, to understand who the God is, there are so many verses, so many quotes by our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. But this verse says it all, which is again a quote from the Quran, where God the Almighty is saying, I will say it in Arabic, which is Inna fi khalqis samawati wal ardi wa ikhtilafil layli wan nahari la ayatin li ulil albab. Indeed, in the creation, now we have to understand that we are talking about God the Almighty. Who the God Almighty is. That we talk about God, but what are the signs of God? And this verse says it all. That is, in the creation of the heavens and earth, and the alternation of day and night is a sign for the people of knowledge. This is one. الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض. And these people, because now they have total belief in God the Almighty, the signs are there. It is us that we are totally ignorant of those signs. That only those people will remember God in whatever they do, in whatever commitments they have got to the worldly life. They will always know that the God the Almighty is looking at you, and He knows everything which is in your heart. We are not talking about our mind. We are talking about hearts. When it comes to heart, if we really want to know who the God is, our Prophet has mentioned that God resides in our heart. Not to be able to experience God, we have to take everything which is in our, all the bad in our hearts to understand who the God is. God wants us to be trustworthy, trustworthy, caring for the fellow beings, because we are all, regardless of our religion, we are all brothers and sisters. And if we acknowledge that, I don't see any reason that there would be any conflicts among us. Thank you.
I too would like to acknowledge the traditional owners who gradually recognize and respect my elders after emerging. Now, from Vegas, what supports mental well-being and helps living a healthy and balanced life? Part of our belief is that we have our testimonies, our great testimonies. And I'm going to focus on 4 of our testimonies. And the first one is simplicity. Simplicity helps us to recognise what is real. Simplicity focuses on the necessities rather than luxuries of life. Simplicity asserts an aesthetic which finds delight in good design, unites form and function, reduce waste and allows me to sit with truth. Simplicity streamlines the daily tasks, lightens the physical and mental workload, transforms social interaction, helps us focus on our life's purpose. Free from distractions, we're more available to develop itself, serve our community and work in humble ways, play our part in planetary improvement. And the principle of peace. Peace is not just food. An agitated mind cannot easily plan, rest, or serve others. Everyone gains by knowing how to centre and calm. Peacefulness suppresses social dynamics, de-escalates violence, soothes inflammatory crimes of conflict, and makes way for the transforming moment. The community. Community is intensely practical and healing. As any pandemic will show, isolation hurts our mental health, and a healthy community helps repair it. Working together in community helps us to process difficult feelings such as despair, loss, grief, and loneliness. Community dares us to care beyond our narrow self, taking wide responsibility to ensure that both spirit and community prosper amongst us. And the testimony of equality. Equality witnesses the truth of which is good, and of that of God in everyone. Equality discards the moral corruption that comes when people are divided into groups, sentiment, and those that don't. So with the principle of equality, we know that we believe that there's that of God within everyone, and so we appeal to that God that is present in everyone.
Many thanks for group to inviting this wonderful. Thanks for all this. My name is Aman, and I've been living in Wagga for 14 years. And I moved to Australia in 2007. That's been 19 years, and I'm practicing Sikhism, which is a way of living life. Now, Sikhism started in the 15th century. And was ruled in age. And the first words or first alphabet in the Holy Scripture is Onkar, which means one God. So you can call it with any name, but it's still going to go back to one God. That's what I believe in. And I'll welcome everyone and say Sat Sri Akal, which means only His name is true. So again, you can call him with any name, and only his name is true. We are in this world with a purpose of life, and everyone has to think about it. What's their purpose of life? To me, what I think is we have to serve the humanity. So pillars of Sikhism, which I follow, is Seva, that means helping everyone wherever I can, on the freeway, with my services, or in any way they need. Second is Kirt Karma, that means working hard. So you need to work hard and need to work hard for your family, for your community, and for your mental health. Regarding the concept of mind, body, and spirit, according to Sikhism, your mind is a reflection of divine, and maintaining your health is essential for aligning oneself with the divine order. What that means is you have to be committed to eternal God. So what that means is we don't have any control in our life as we're lovely. It's all written, it's all happening. We are just going through the time and assessing. We don't have any control on how much air we can breathe in, how we can breathe out. And then we try to control everyone, even that can do that. But then our ego gets into the way. Then we're thinking, oh, I can do that. The word I, which gets everyone down, because we imply it on ourselves and saying that, oh, I've done this, I'm going to do this. But then it's not us, it's him. He's doing everything. So as soon as we get that acceptance of committing to eternal self and believing all humanity is one and universal brotherhood, I think we'll all have a better life. Thank you.
Very much for that first question. And I'd like to now move on with our second question. And certainly many of us have enormous lived experience, and certainly even guests joining us today, certainly can understand that they've seen people, and experience people who've been through stress of self, anxiety, and even those emotional difficulties that come with life and the challenges. So really the second question really asks what are those practical ways in which we can respond to stress, to anxiety, uncertainty that we have in life. And I'll start down the end with Karen.
Thank you. I want to go back to the story I said about that little fellow being on country. And when I said before that everything is spirit-filled, I mean everything is God-filled. Everything is God-filled. And so I want to share with you, a few years ago, my father passed away. He died. And we had always been extremely good friends. And I remember spending so much time on country and experiencing the peace of God through country and knowing deep in my heart that we are one with all. And just experiencing the peace and the comfort. And I felt there was a special place I used to go to. And I felt enveloped by that place. And from personal experience, that is what helped me get through and calmed me and nurtured me. Yeah. So I think that just being in place and knowing that we are with God. I would have liked to have said before that, as also a Christian, the Bible, the very first book of the Bible tells us that God created, how he blessed all of his creation and then made us. He put us in the midst of it, not to dominate it in the arrogant way that we do at times, but in the midst of it. Why? Because he is with it too.
I think what has been done is really a definition of what mental illness is. Mental illness from the perspective of us is really a medical condition. Refers to, as all give my definition, as I understand mental illness is. It refers to health conditions that affect the brain's functioning, leading to changes in thinking and behaviour, and the ability to cope with daily life. These conditions arise from genetic influences, brain chemistry, stress medicine views mental illness as a disturbance in biological systems rather than a personal weakness of character or a character flaw. And just alluded there to that God created man, but He created man in two stages. He first created man, Genesis, I think 6, 7, somewhere, that God created man out of the dust of the earth. And once He created man out of the dust of the earth, He then breathed into his nostrils and gave him the spiritual life. So man is like the animal, but above the animal, he's been given God's Spirit, so that we have the ability to calculate, think, reason, and strive to the knowledge of God. And that, what I'm saying is that if we recognise that, well, then the first thing with mental illness is to see a doctor, and that's because there are medications that can help people with mental illness, but the cause of mental illness is that, or the way to overcome it is to control your mind, be disciplined in what you do. And this is where one's religious faith helps in conditioning the mind. The mind is really like, as I say, like a computer in a body. And the controller of that computer affects how we approach all different problems of life. So if we're practice devotion, have prayers, and allow our mind to relax and think, give it rest, the body will react in that. Yeah, I don't it's not a little thing that one second to see it all right out. The body is therefore the instrument through which the soul functions. So when we recognise that, we can take off on a lot different attitude. All the pressures, not having enough money to live, or saying something and thinking that people don't like you and everything, they are already don't exist because you consider those challenges broken.
So, from Buddhist perspective, to deal with anxiety or stress, fear or suffering, one of the antidote that emphasize often is to understand the relative nature and ultimate nature, the fear, the anxiety, suffering, and it is the environment, the causes of the conditions. So in Buddhist teaching, most of this, all these experiences very much comes out of confusion, of not understanding the truth, even relative level, no question about understanding the ultimate truth. Such as anxiety, fear, sufferings, their relative truth, in fact, it's an impermanent nature, being changeable, being impermanent nature. And very much the anxiety and suffering comes because of false view or the ignorant or understanding the relative truth and holding to the false view, permanent, seeing the problem as permanent and grasping onto it. And that's where the fears come from, like fear of uncertainty of future and suffering of the past experiences, even though it is already past, but it's still holding to the present, even though that future concern, certainties, not yet arrive at the present time, but then you still, as if it is definite to experience. So due to the fixation of the suffering comes from. So when you understand it is relative nature as impermanent, then right there you start to release. It is grasping. The moment the grasping is released, and then you gain the freedom. Then there are also sufferings and fear, anxieties, stress comes from being too harsh, whether to the self or others. So we need to be more gentle about even how intense the situation may be, how intense the suffering may be. We need to communicate with ourselves, communicate with the situation, others in a gentle way. And the truth is to use the tools of compassion. Compassion simply meaning not wanting suffering and want to cause a condition to elevate suffering. So if any stress or the anxiety of suffering is related to your own conducts, then you need to deal with the heart of compassion and try to cause a condition to elevate. And the way to do that is simply being gentle, being kind, and communicate it that way. So if it's suffering to anxiety, anything that relation to others' actions or the external circumstances, so there too deal with compassion. So there are we call the four seals of Dharma. Dharma simply meaning this understanding, it's a protections of the mind. So if we carry the four seals to make sure that our heart always carries the protections from negative doings, creating causes and conditions for suffering, then we would suffer, we would not experience fear or anxiety or any kind of miserable experiences. And the four seals are we call the understanding all functioning phenomena in the nature of the environment. And all the contemplative is understood that by nature is actually is a suffering. So that as long as that you accept the nature, that itself is a doorway to gain the relief, gain the freedom. Then the self is empty. And we also call nirvana is peace. So nirvana here referring the freedom from the bondage of karma, freedom from bondage of delusions like anger, attachment, ego, depression, etc. Is the actual genuine sense of happiness. So these are the few tools that use for us to free from suffering. And as I mentioned before, everything starts with the narrating beneficial wisdom, beneficial stories. Everything starts from there. Even though myself, I had quite a tough childhood life. I have a very difficult relationship with my father, and I escaped to monastery, and my master every single day skillfully just narrating a story that which is opposite from what I understood about the relationship with my father. I thought that he's the worst people in the entire universe. He's my enemy. But my master, without explaining detail, kept telling me, the kindest person in your life is your father. And he been telling me at least twice or three times a day. I was portraying, so carry very heavy luggage. So I have this big deep mark here. So when we come out, we shave our hair, and you can see there's a mark here. So each time I run around, which is around the age of 9, so the master would touch his hand on my hat, and the word it reminds me of suffering. It reminds me of the bad relationship with my father. But the word that he says is, kindest person in your life is your father. So he's been telling me this for 3 years. For the first 1 year, 2 years, my anger in fact grew bigger. And after 3rd year onward, the anger started to subside. And after that, it's like kind of recovery. So it took about 6 years. And I understood the meaning of what it meant. Whatever goodness that I have is because of his mystery to me. That's why I am able to renounce the worldly expectations for my own, self-centered ambitions, and I start to live a life that which is sharing my happiness with many others, sharing knowledge with others, sharing time with others, not just stuck within one small kind of number or area or family. But that lead me to learn about immeasurable love, immeasurable compassion, and also learn about that your true nature is a pure nature. We call it Buddha nature. Everybody carries pure nature. Everybody is, in fact, the whole being is actually Buddha being. Whatever limitations of suffering, what we call samsaric person, deluded persons are all are temporal. Not an innate kind of being. And I get to learn about that, and I try to learn to express that. And until by today, I can say for the past 30 years, I experienced the whole world as my family, not just my biological family alone. I feel wherever I go, right now, Wagga Wagga is my hometown, and the people here is my family. And literally feel that. I have a beautiful friends from Christian, from Muslim, from everywhere. So all this started from narrating a positive story, and that really helped purify it. So, yeah.
There's 2 things I'm considering. One is prevention and intervention. So the question around practices in faith. There's so many things that I could say, but if we talk about the prevention side of things, there's 2 of the things that I think Christianity really comes to it is, one, making sense and making meaning of pain suffering in itself. Being able to acknowledge that suffering in this world is inevitable. So Christianity would say that because of our fallen world, we have to expect there is suffering. So there isn't even, well, the goal really is to not even have the attachment of wanting there to be no suffering on this planet, because we know that that's just not going to happen. That doesn't mean that we don't strive to try and end whatever sufferings we may see before us, that we don't try to alleviate whatever pain is within us or within others. But we try to have a no attachment to that end goal itself. That lack of suffering, lack of pain is what we get to experience in the next life, not in this life. So I think that meaning in itself also helps to shape that preventative space where we're going into mental resilience as opposed to mental ill health. and we're talking about what builds up. So that's one aspect. The other is the very tangible relationship that describes that. So it really is about being in relationship with someone. And we know that when we have someone that is so close to us, that we experience a complete level of acceptance, understanding, knows us, but also someone who has experienced the full range of human emotion, that level of strength that we can take from that person, I don't know that we can quite quantify that. That builds mental health and resilience in itself. We get to lean in on this person, we get to talk to that person, we get to find guidance in that person, just to be heard by that person. So I think that tangible relationship in itself is an asset to the prevention space. Then if we move from the prevention into intervention, we take those two aspects with us. But when we move into intervention, that is also where I think Christianity says, as an embodied person with soul, right? That separates spirituality from the physical, psychological, and sociological. That's what Christianity would say. God's grace is found in every person who's practicing their faith. In every person who's been named in the image and likeness of God has placed talents and gifts. Go and receive those gifts. So don't sort of hold back thinking, oh, I must sort of pray this way, or there must be only one way out of it, because that goes against the very first thing I said, that we're not separate things, we're all together one. So if that means physical healing, going to your doctor to get a mental health care plan, then certainly if that means going on medication, good, that's good. If that means for one part of depression, it might be isolation, so maybe it's about connecting with community, whether that's church community, family, or us struggle, friendships, support groups, whatever is necessary for us to feel different about what's happening in the moment, trying the different things, but also what we know brings healing to us. And then also there's all the spiritual aspects of it as well, whether we can tap more deeply into that personal relationship that we have with Christ. What that looks like, whether that's personal prayer time, group prayer time, is that some kind of worship, is that going to particular services, masses, churches, and so on, whatever that need is, to try and seek that out. And also the cycle is the other aspect. So perhaps all of these spaces are difficult. Someone who's experiencing depression or anxiety might need the help of someone who is a mental health professional to help you that out. And so use those things. So I think the Christian youth would say there is gifts here, everyone, seek them out. The only caveat is just to make sure it's not going to go against spirituality, that goes against the word wrong. But outside of that, there is goodness to always be that.
I like to start to thank Colin Foster because he gave us some kind of the definition of mental illnesses. And then if we go a little bit deeper about that question that I asked people, stress, anxiety, uncertainty, question, what is the practice each religious group has? I want to start with this one. What is a real mind? In Hinduism, the mind is nothing but a system. If you give a little bit pause and think what is going on, it's all about the anxiety, stress, uncertainty, everything is just a thought, nothing else. Like this one, people are coming. I was a bit feeling stress or anxiety of what I'm going to see, who are they, what question they're going to ask. It's not, it's just pure thought. And Hinduism is a perspective, stress, anxiety, uncertainty, and emotional device is not seen as a thing. It's just part of life. The question is, how are we going to manage this stuff? How are we going to deal with this anxiety or stress? Definitely, nowadays we have a lot of medical professional medication to deal with this. I strongly believe every single religious things, every faith group, they have some kind of a solution for the human mankind that how we going to deal with these stress or anxiety or anxiety. The things is, first of all, we are attached to everything. We want to control everything. I can give from my perspective as a human, as a person. I am dealing with the 85 people at work, right? And pretty much in backside in my mind, I want to control everything. And when I want to control everything and everyone, that's my anxiety and uncertainty is coming to me, and I become a panic and become a ill. Hinduism say you cannot control everything. You should not. You only should control what you can control. You should focus on what you should focus and control. That's one of the tools. And the Hinduism is one of the ancient religions, and I'm strongly believe we all know about a lot of tools and techniques the Hindu people or Hinduism practice, like a meditation, pranayama, breathing technique, mindfulness. That's not the point I'm going to discuss. It's like too many things. Instead of that, what is really I'm going to bring in here from the Bhagavad Gita that when the Lord Krishna said, Arjuna, mind is your friend, it's your enemy. So if you control your mind, you can get the beautiful life. If you can't control your mind, you are going to suffer. So the thing is how we going to control. We have a tendency to give our remote control to others, and we never ever go inside and try to see what I am and what I'm thinking. Hinduism asking, first of all, think, even pause, who I am. If you know who I am, you will 95%, 99% problem will be solved. If you know how the mind works, your problem will be solved. And instead of that, we rely on a lot of outside, and we are blaming outside. We are rely on others. That's create a problem. We rely on our ego, and we want to control everything. Lord Krishna said to Arjuna, do what you need to do, but don't expect any result. If I do the good things, I think what I say to my work all the time, don't worry about your promotion or anything. If you do the good work, the result will come to me. But what we do normally, before we start to work, we want to see the result. And when we want to see the result and think about the result, that's what brings us stress and anxiety. And to maintain this one, in Hinduism, there is a lot of things in Hinduism. I think a lot of things is the right platform to discuss. It takes a lot of time. One thing I really want to mention in here, if you know yourself and if you have self-knowledge, that will help you to deal with your anxiety, stress, and anxiety. Definitely, there is some techniques too, and in Hinduism, this is called satsanga. I mean, mixing up with good people. I think Buddhism is called shanga, mixing with good people. Yoga, Islamism is called some kind of that. We are doing the ummah, so connecting with the good people. When you are connecting with the good people, the knowledge will come, and you will see this stress, anxiety would be disappeared. For me and for Hinduism, knowledge is one of the main things to deal with this one.
I will start with this this understanding that do we really know God? If you know God, then we should know His attributes as well. we know the God is compassion. Are we exercising compassion? God is mercy. Are we merciful to each other? And then the most important thing is God is forgiving. Are we forgiving? I will just talk briefly about this quote where Prophet Muhammad was sitting with his companion. And this reflects, our own mental state and how we can deal with the stresses which we have around us on a everyday basis. And he was sitting with his companions, and he said that whoever enters this place will be the person who will be the successful. And when Prophet say that, he didn't only mean is that person's success in this world, but we all believe that that eternal life hereafter. And then the person who entered that building or that room was an ordinary person of those one of the companions people know that person. And he thought, how could it be? But then of course, the prophet of God is saying that he had to believe it. But he wanted to, out of curiosity, he wanted to know what is so special in this person that God of the prophet of God has mentioned him to be a successful in this world and hereafter. And the tradition, Arab tradition was that whoever knocks at the people's door and tell him that I am a traveler, they would allow him to come in and they will feed him for 3 days, and he will have it, night's sleep as. And the very first day he wanted to see what this person is doing. And he noticed that he was not doing anything, more than ordinary. He slept. The next day again, the night came, the day went by, and he wanted to see what extraordinary thing he was doing. Nothing. The third day, same thing happened. At the final day, before he was leaving, and he said that I want to be very honest, that I wasn't a traveler. It's just that I wanted to see what are you doing to gain that news from Prophet that you are the most successful person in this world and the hereafter. And of course, this person was very happy when he heard the Prophet is saying something about him. And then he said, I don't do anything except when I go to bed, I forgive them. No one, whether his relatives or anyone in his mind who might have dealt with him badly, he forgives them. And if you look at it, and this is what I'm also, when during in the prison environment, whenever I'm meeting with the inmates, this is I want talking to them. Have you forgiven your, especially the blood relations? And their question is no. I just want to take revenge. And this is what is creating this mental illness, which starts with a very small issue, and then this builds on, and then eventually, we are taking all the types of drugs, and then we end up in the state, we are in a mental unit and being there by doctors. Having said that, our Prophet said that this is very important to understand that there is a spiritual part of it, that he is forgiving, but illness is there. And he had mentioned, if I have mentioned it, that make use of medical treatment, for God the Almighty has created a disease without appointing a remedy for it. So there is a remedy for it. But as far as the initiation of that mental illness, we have to understand it all starts with not forgiving the person who might have inflicted you. And then, how come it would be that you will forgive someone who has dealt you so badly that you ended up with that mental illness? Quran says that if you are at the height of anger, forgive him to begin with, so that there won't be any issue that that will be, affecting you for whole of your life. And of course, there are so many other things which we have to understand that God has given us this sickness, mental illness, and that is that whatever illness Allah, God Almighty give, there is a reward waiting for you. That is expiation of your sins. And on account of it, Prophet said that even a brick of a thorn is actually alleviating your sins. So whatever comes, accept it. Any illness that it is from God, and God will cure you, and He will elevate you in terms of your, rank in the hereafter. Thank you. Good mental health, and also good mental health, you've got the transition between the two. And what we believe as Quakers is that if you have not good mental health, then you should be seeking medical intervention and trying to deal with whatever it is that's causing the stress. And a lot of the stress comes with things that it's not really related to reality, and so we need sort of medical intervention. And one of the things that we do is we hold people in the light, people that are going through a difficult period in the light, and just giving them that support. So God's light can actually start shining on that person, just concentrating it, so that as they work through their stress or their condition, we're actually holding them in the light so that they can come out. And as I spoke earlier on about the fake testimonies, those testimonies can sort of help deal with the stresses and mental illness the person is suffering. So hold people in the light, believe that there's that of God within everybody, and feel to the God that is there, because everyone in this world is failing. Okay.
Listening to your points, we believe what is the grassroots problem of stress and anxiety? Could be many things. What we go to, the issues, neighbor, or issues within ourselves. So we gotta characterize what is drawing us down. End of the day, stress is a negative energy which stays in your system, which draws out every bit of life. So with practicing Sikhism, we believe that when your mind is simple and focused, then you can transcend the challenges posed by material world through meditation, prayer, and self-discipline. Then you can attain a state of mental equilibrium better. What that means is you need to find people you can talk. We call it satsanga. So people you can would not judge you on things, but hold them on set, helping you. Medical side of things, I'm a dentist, so I'm saying that medical side of things, modern medicine, they fix you on your symptom basis, but they don't fix you actually what is causing grassroots symptoms, which is wrong within itself. What that means is, again, if you're grieving through a process, you have to do acceptance, which is prana, which means accept as a will of God. It's happened. There's nothing in my control. I can't do anything about it. And move on. I have to accept it. Second thing is optimism, which means That's what we believe. It's called as charity God. Charity means to rise, to ascend, and kala means to submission to. So in every adversity, you need to come up with optimism that I'll come through it, whatever it is. And that's what we saw in in the battles Sikhs fought, warriors back in 1700s. They were fighting against 40 odd people, fighting against 10,000 people, but they were in charity. The odds were, they knew that they were going to die, but they said, no, we're not afraid of dying. We're going to fight with it. That means their mental state was not depressed, they were up there to fight it. And then second thing I was agreeing with Dr. Adler is forgiveness. We can't forgive people. That's the biggest negative energy what we take with us. It happened to my father as well. He was going through I don't know how his family, and he was always blaming his father for not giving him his share. And I used to listen to it for like 15, 20 years. And then obviously they're all gonna take them forward and do that. And then one day I sat with him and I said, look, how old are you now? He said, I'm 68. I said, everyone's fighting with everyone. And you're 60 now. How long you can live, you think? So probably 80. How long you can carry on fighting for nothing? He said, I don't know. I said, but when you're gonna go, then you need to continue that fight and go on with fighting about money, which is immaterial. Because as soon as you go, your hands are open, you're empty. You take nothing. So and then I told him, look, you need to let it go. Call them and tell them to sit and tell them to decide what they think is right. Don't say that, auntie. Just tell them that's forgiveness. You're letting it go. You're letting it from your heart. You're saying like, there's nothing bad on it. Just let it go. And then they decided, okay, this is what we're going to do. Now sit down. And since then, he's told me he's feeling much better. He doesn't have that negative energy, which has been carrying on for 10, 15 years. And I can see a change in him. He doesn't repeat the same thing again and again. So sometimes I think it's what we carry through and acceptance and letting it go is the biggest thing how we lead a life. And God's will. It's His will. We have no control over it. And karma, which is the big thing. I've seen Paul was quoting a reference from Bhagavad Gita. And that's what when Arjun was a warrior and he was fighting his relatives, and he was about to, put a sword or arrow into his elder, and he said, I can't do it. I can't do it because I know them, but still be in the war. He said, that's your karma. That's what you are going to do. What happens after that, that's not in your control. If he's going to live, he'll live. But you are in the war, that's your karma. That's you fighting for. You need to look for it. So I think it's a state of mind in way we lead a life. And the biggest thing, and another thing is Simran, which I believe in, is to remembrance of God. You can sit inside the room, you can chant anything you like, but you are connecting to yourself, your inner self. And that's what the soul is we got a slice of soul from the eternal God in every one of us. We can't deny it. Because as soon as we die, the doctor said, what's left in us that we dead now? We got all the organs, everything, heart, brain, lungs, everything was there. And suddenly the doctor said, he's gone. What's gone? That is soul. So if the soul is in every one of us, we should feed the soul with better energy rather than darkness. And that's where I rest. Thank you so much.
Thank you all panel members this morning for the wonderful discussion. Certainly those joining us online, I hope you enjoy that in the audience as well. We'll now have our break. We're going down there, we're probably hungry, and there's some wonderful food at the back there. So feel free if anyone wishes to say any prayer before tea, but I'll now turn over to them. Thank you.
Thank you all, and welcome to morning tea. Do think of questions to ask our leaders here from any perspective. Feel free to interact. More food goes in, more questions come out. Thank you. Thank you, Rory.
Yes, yeah, yes, yeah. Yes.
I usually take the jacket.
Yeah, because we are.
Yeah.
Another meeting that's going to. Like I said yesterday, you need to have the passport.
not to forget, but forgive. That's what it is. I mean, if you forget, that means there's something wrong with the mind that, this is normal. Keep it like that. And forgiveness is for you to realize that you have got nothing to say in front of when you go in front of God, that you haven't asked for forgiveness. If someone has God forgiven you, then you don't have to even forgive that other person has asked your forgiveness and you have forgiven. What else is zero, zilch? So I think this is my best answer to what you have said. But if you have behavior, fanaticism is an extreme and unreasonable devotion to a belief, cause, or activity. It involves a total lack of tolerance for different views and often leads to a harsh or violent action. Very good question. And there are fanatics in religion. And we should understand that it is not tolerable in religion. In terms of my religion, fanaticism doesn't have any place. But I'm sure the other religions have got the same view. But I would like everyone to talk about a little bit about it. I think you don't want to get bored, but here we are.
In Hinduism, fanatism is kind of the ignorance.
you should not bring any negative energy of someone in you. You should bring about positiveness, spread that. That's what we'll leave it for. If everyone's going to be negative and negative, then we're going to have explosion. No one's going to go into humility. Thank you so much.
If I can answer that as a therapist, when I have a client come to me and they may have all sorts of challenges that are going on in their life, they may be open to help, which is why they've come to me. Doesn't mean that they're necessarily ready to change. So what I would suggest as a practical is actually just to listen. Sometimes the person who is struggling with whatever it is that's going on for them and bringing out this negative attitude or perspective, that oftentimes leaves the person, if it's been long enough, leaves the person more and more isolated. We naturally tend towards stepping away from people who hold that kind of attitude for any length of time because it's draining on everyone. So if that person has come to you with it, maybe the only person that's still in that circle that still has enough energy left to give them. So I would actually just suggest listening and trying to embody that virtue Sue was talking about, humility. And maybe there is something I don't actually understand. Maybe jumping to the conclusion that I have a positive perspective and they have a negative perspective is actually not anything. So jumping to that could actually just make them more defensive, just makes them bunker down even harder. Now, I'm definitely not going to change because you don't understand me. Whereas if I can come along and try to understand what is going on for them, what is their pain and suffering, why is it that they see the world in this way, whilst holding on to my perspective, not losing mine. But stepping into that, I think that is what Jesus Christ wants for us. He went to the depths of despair to show us that we can come alongside other people who are also struggling and in pain without losing who we are in that process.
Hello, my name is Carolyn. Now, I don't know if I missed it or not, but was fanaticism declared a mental illness or not? And if it isn't, what is it?
I strongly believe that fanatism is a mental illness because these people are really greedy. Either they want to get the power, they want to rule over the other peoples, or they want to tell the peoples my way is the highway, my ideology or my religion system better than others. And if you go through the history, you will see that what happened in the world more what happened in the name of the religions than anything else. And really, it's all about the language, nothing else. Because whatever we're debating in here or talking in here, we are saying in different languages. And we all try to prove that I'm the best, I'm the better than you, I'm the best in this world. This is the pride, this is the ego. And when someone is going to say, now my religion is better than you, our way is the better than you one, it's a kind of a mentality because they are not happy inside. And only unhappy people is doing all sorts of anarchism. If you find someone is really happy, they will never destroy anyone else. They will not respect anyone. And in my opinion, in Hinduism, I can tell you it is a better. It is nothing else. It's a better.
I heard your question and went, oh, that's not the comment. I did notice that before that we didn't actually address the representative. Definition. Yeah, we did. I'm cautious about defining it and adding it as a mental illness because I think then we we think about it as a court of law, we think about justice, and then we get into all sorts of trouble. In terms of the pride and the vice versus virtue dialogue, that's where I think I would add Finaston. I wouldn't necessarily class it as a mental illness, but I would say it's not completely worse. And that there are definitely vulnerabilities that I think I see in myself that could, if I led to my down that path, I could turn into an addict. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I have a mental illness. That just means that I have some vulnerabilities and I chose pathways, possibly led by the vice of pride. And when I say that, I mean people just the opposite of humility. I talk about a level of satisfaction that we have in having accomplished something. So for me, fanaticism would not necessarily be a mental illness, not on its own, it has to be other things. But I would say more it's just unhealthy for us to pursue that path. From the Christian perspective, I would go as far as to say we've actually made an idol of ourselves if we've gone down that path, because I don't see any of our speakers today having spoken about their faith as having anything remotely linked to fanaticism. So I would suggest instead, the Christian, that may lead towards extremism and fanaticism. If instead pride is on overboard, voluntarily embedded, the opposite of humility, that's made the person themselves feel like the way that I see things is the only one-dimensional way of viewing things, and everybody else wants to see it that way, and I get to make my own judgments on other people when they go to the way I see things. Yeah.
From the Baha'i perspective, man is going to give them freedom of choice. We believe that evil is a lack of good. And or it's like darkness, it's a lack of light. So a person who is on the path of hurting others and going against not being good in society or whatever, lacks the light on what it is to be good. So we have to shed that light and try and bring goodness in. Yeah. So now when it comes, there is still that freedom of choice that you can make to go on an even path for a right. Those that choose that path, we leave it to God to make the judgment. But what I'm trying to say is that we should always be promoting the good. What about a person who's fanatically good? This is wrong in that question. He goes out of his way, back of the heart, some of the whole heart, gave everything away all the time already had. And he was fanatically good. So you can't really cast fanaticism a failing of the law.
Just to add to the conversation whether something's good or bad, or good for us or bad for us. Our dreaming stories that children are told, they're retold throughout their life, often have layers of meaning. And the one meaning that comes through many of our dreaming stories is the importance of contributing and living towards the common good, not just your. So that's what I meant before about the sort of language we use or anything we do as far as finance is concerned does not contribute to the common good, because it's not just us, it's about community.
can't say whether fanaticism is a interest or not, but certainly not good, certainly not good to be fanatical. But I was talking earlier on about deep listening, and by listening to everyone, listening to both sides, getting a balanced view, you are fighting the forces of fanaticism and getting a true balance of what the situation is. So it's really important to really listen, deeply listen to them.
And we have one last question, and if you have any more burning questions, feel free to hang around. And yeah, so thank you.
Actually, this is another question. This is a request from the religious representatives of the various faiths in our community. Is to ask your community at the next function or event, whether it's a service or whatever, that they walk the streets of Wagga with a smile at everybody, not at the people of your congregation, but at everybody, because what it boils down to, our faith is our practice in our daily lives. And if we can make Wagga a happy place, then it will attract people. That's not love the place away. So please ask your community at the next function or event to smile when they walk the streets of Wagga at everybody. Because there are people from many parts of the world where they actually smile and greet each other. And what it was like this, we used to say good morning to everybody, but that is not happening anymore, which is sad. I went away for something like 40 years ago, just under 40 years from Wagga. I came back and I was surprised that the place has changed so much. So let's hold the special place for Wagga and other parts, but expect friendship in our daily life. Thank you.
You want to be blamed because you went away from me.
That's unpopular.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now for the closing reflection on to Rory. Thank you, Rory.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we heard from an amazing panel today. Leaders in our community, people with more faiths, and certainly it's been such a positive thing to hear, rather than what we hear and see on the news, violence, war. We've come today with a very open mind and perspective, and listening to others share their own values, their own beliefs, their own experience. I think that's been special to hear. And I hope those joining online and those who attended today have gotten something out of how can we support others who may be facing their own mental health challenges in the world, whether it's our brother or sister, mother, or our neighbour. But certainly our faith can really be a driving force of keeping us steady, so to speak, and allowing us to contribute to society. So I want to give a big round of applause to the panel for giving up their time. Thank you all for coming. The giving away your Saturday to come and listen really shows you want to obviously hear from different people's views and share and be a part of our community. I want to thank also the organisers of this wonderful event and the Multicultural Council who supported it. It's been really well organised and also the event, and certainly I only had a Teams meeting with you, only recently, and I thought, oh, how am I going to go moderating this? But I think it all went very smoothly, and I'm very happy that everyone's enjoyed. So thank you. And I'll just hand you over to our MC, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you. And once again, a very special thanks to our main sponsor, Multicultural Council Wagga Wagga and Rory. Thank you for our supporters, Wagga Wagga Base Hospital for providing the venue, Peace Communities, Rotary Club of Wagga Wagga for providing the Peace Pole. We would also like to thank our faith communities and their support, contribution and wisdom shared today. Aaron, the local spiritual assembly of Baha'is of Wagga Wagga, Ottawa Buddhist Group, Catholic Diocese of Wagga Wagga, Tina, thank you. Wagga Wagga Hindu Temple and Cultural Organization, thank you, Nepal. Commission for Dr. Atul Udrema. The Religious Society of Friends, Wagga Meeting, Michael. Gurudwara Singh Sabha, Wagga Wagga, Dr. Raman. Thank you all. Thank you, Pei. And I request all the speakers to stay for some photos and also as an appreciation or thank you, Pei will be coming and distributing some goodies. And goodies for the audience is lunchbox and some food. Thank you.
I would like to take a visit here. From Wagga Wagga Hindu Temple, I would like to invite all of you. We are going to open our temple for public around ceremony on the 5th of September at 12 o'clock. CSU building number 6. CSU agreed to give us a long-term lease for that building. So this is the first time in Wagga Wagga. Hindu people is going to have their own temple. You all are welcome. I would be really delighted to see you all on 5th of September at 12 o'clock.
Thank you, members. Thank you, and a big round of applause for all of you who showed up. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for having me. Coming along to this event as well. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Chu. Thank you, Budman. Thank you, Jigmane. Thank you, Pat. Was not able to make it here today, and thank you. Yes. I also like to thank Alicia for the MC and the who represents Wagga Base Hospital, whom I have hassled for the last 2 weeks. Here, Clippers, representing the security, 12 weeks.
I'll take milk chocolate. That was my Are you
I was interested that people were going to smile.
Maybe it's a lot of business social. Having prepared at the end of the day.
The only street, community street is the market. So, I'm sick, not sick. Yeah. I'm sorry. Hopefully I remember.
I just noticed that you're not you. So I beg your pardon, smiling. I lived in mortgage. Interstate to Tasmania, Queensland. And I went to China. I just came back from a 2-week trip to China. So I was just visiting. I was hoping to do some work with the sisters. I took some Red is my name. Red is
Great.
Nice to meet you. Welcome. Parents. Yes.
And my
Melodies need some kind of gloves to bring in back. Lovely meeting Let's go. Hi.